I'd like to welcome you to today's library lecture. Our guest speaker is Dr. Nuhu Yaqub, OFR, which stands for Officer of the Order of the Federal Republic. Dr. Yaqub was honored and bestowed with this prestigious Nigerian national title in October 2007 at a Nigerian National Day celebration. The award was presented to him along with other eminent Nigerians for services rendered to the country. He studied at the University of Toronto and received his PhD from the University of Sussex in England. From 2004 to 2009, Dr. Yaqub served as Vice Chancellor of the University of Abuja in Abuja, Nigeria. Additionally, he served as the president of the continental body, the African Council for Distance Education, which is based in Nairobi, Kenya, in the 2008-2009 academic session. The National Democratic Institute of the United States nominated him to serve as an election observer during the parliamentary elections in Bangladesh in December 2008. Currently, he is Wake's Fulbright Scholar in Residence and visiting professor in the Department of Political Science. This past fall semester, he taught a course entitled Africa and World Politics. He is a member of several professional associations, including the Nigerian Political Science Association, the Association of African Political Science, the International Council of Distance Education, the African Council of Distance Education, and the African Studies Association. He has published widely on African political economy, international politics, democratic transition and consolidation, and public policy in both local and international refereed journals. The title of today's lecture is Values, Education, and Governance in Nigeria. How would the country get the right balance? Without further ado, Dr. Nuhu Yaqub.
Thank you. Thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I want to start by thanking Ms. Caroline McCollum, the co-chair of the ZRSR Library Lecture Series, and the other members of the committee, organizers of this series, for their kind invitation to me to participate in this event. I also want to seize this opportunity to recognize the presence of the director of the library, my head of department is also here. I want to recognize her presence. Some of my students are also here. I want to welcome you to this occasion, and also my colleagues in the Department of Political Science. It's a pleasure to be in your midst, and particularly I want to also thank the Wake Forest University for the opportunity given to me to be here as a visiting Fulbright Scholar. I think in the past 5 months or so that I've been here, I have learned quite a lot. And I want to consider this university as one of the best universities where learning is promoted. And I'm going to take this value with me when I get back to Nigeria. I chose the topic, Values, Education, and Governance in Nigeria. How could the country get the right balance? And it is on the basis of the fact that in Nigeria, currently, we've been having the worsening moral turpitude and increasing patrimonial governance system in Nigeria. It is a disturbing phenomenon to Nigerians and friends of Nigerians as well. I remember the World Bank has written extensively about the rate of corruption in Nigeria, advising government, series of governments, as I'll try to show in this lecture, that they should actually change gear refocus the governance system, redirect it so that the citizenry will benefit from the huge resources. I mean, Nigeria is considered one of the most blessed countries in the world. But in the midst of the wealth of the country, it is also, unfortunately, the one that demonstrates the worst level of poverty, indiscipline, corruption, and a lack of focus generally. So for us as Nigerians and for friends of Nigeria, I think it is always an opportunity that one should seize to express our innermost concerns about the problems the country is faced with. So this concern has led to the following questions. Is the educational system responsible for the problems of governance, moral decay, and the lack of pursuit of due process? I also put the question in the other way around. If intrinsically education and its system cannot be held responsible, how can it be used as an instrument to reverse the ugly development? In particular, too, how can governance be reformed to become more efficient and the moral firmament of the country made to look up? These are the issues that I will focus on in this lecture. In the rest of the talk, I shall proceed as follows. I'll define value, also define education, the role it has to play in forging good values. I trace also the development trajectory of the formal education system in Nigeria, and also look at the problems associated with the Nigerian education sector. From this, I look at the issue of value education. I will have also defined value and what it connotes. Look at the concept of values education, define governance, look also at the problems of governance in Nigeria. And finally, the penultimate section of the paper deals with a review, a critical review of the Nigerian social system. Then finally, I give the concluding remarks. I start with the definition of values, and values simply, to me, are those positive ideals that societies hold on to very dearly because of their relevance. Values in particular sustain the societies, and they make societies to grow or to continue to progress from one millennium to another. But that is assuming that we accept that values can be subdivided into two. When we talk about values sustaining societies, we are talking of good values. Good values also have their opposite, bad values. And bad values generally do not hold societies together, and also the individuals involved. That is why societies will have to be concerned about them. If we define society as, a corporate entity that, thrives on progress, law and order, peace, the promotion of the welfare of the citizenry, then, of course, when there are values that are negative, that are likely to derail these positive ideals of society, any sane society will be concerned about the existence of such bad values. And that's why societies generally put in place regulations aimed at checking the relationship between individuals and the state, and also the relationship between or among individuals. Regulations are not just made for the sake of making. They are not, meant to decorate or show, show them as adornments of society, but they are meant to actually achieve certain specific objectives, which is to ensure that there will be stability, there will be social harmony, and coherence in such societies. Bad values actually lead to bad behaviors. I'm going to give examples of some of these values eventually. And they are the ones that are easily cultivated. In fact, good values are very difficult to build, to sustain. That is not the case with the bad values. Bad values can easily, if I come in here with a gun, of course everybody here will be intimidated. What is he up to? Okay, and that is because everybody is concerned. And I'm trying to make reference to also the recent event that happened in the state of Arizona, where, a young man, just about 23 or so, who actually should be in school, reading, and also trying to acquire skills that would be relevant to society, decided to take it upon himself to destroy lives. In the process, he killed 6 people. And I'm saying, even if he returned to society later, rehabilitated, the question I pose to myself, a moral question for that matter, is that this gentleman, can he at the same time produce 6 children to replace those he killed? And even if we produce 6 children, how are we sure that we can get the same value from those 6 children as the value of those 6 that he has killed? These are the issues about, values that, bad values actually, that should concern society, and any society for that matter. To encourage good values, a recognition must be expressed by the state or society by award or rewards, praises, and as well as sanctification. On the other hand, to discourage bad values, there should be punishment. Although I quite agree that there are bad values that cannot be punished, and they actually don't have to. Laws don't have to be made to check them. When we talk about values, I have also tried to subdivide them into 2. We have what I call moral values and non-moral values. Moral values are also subdivided into those that can earn praises, rewards, awards, and sanctifications. And this includes bravery, courage of immense proportions, especially in a war theater. Recently, I witnessed on the television when President Obama awarded, I think, the highest medal of honor to a veteran of the Afghanistan war. And this was this was based on the fact that he actually exposed himself to danger to save, his colleague, or at least to make sure that the colleague, was not, even if he was killed eventually, I've forgotten the story now, but to ensure that, not too much damage was done to him. So with such bravery and courage, he could decide not to assist, to run for his dear life, but he decided to actually go the extra mile to see how he could, assist his colleague or his comrade. That is what I would call, moral value shown by an individual, and it could lead to award, rewards, as well as sanctifications. Selflessness is also a good moral value. And this is exactly what the gentleman tried to do. Hard work, empathy, if people lose relations or dear ones, showing concern for somebody who is not blood related to the disease is considered, a moral value, which is good to cultivate. Then there are those moral values that will earn or attract punishment. Stealing, whether it is $5 or tens of thousands of dollars, or driving on the wrong side of the road. I think just yesterday also I was watching the television, and on a highway, somebody was driving against the flow of traffic. And my goodness, when they were even showing it on the television, I wasn't physically present when this event took place, but I was worried that what will happen if there was accident. It will lead to death, destruction of property, and also the infrastructure of the society. So this kind of value, which is negative, certainly will attract punishment, as well as some reprobation. Of course, punishments will vary according to the gravity of the offense. Somebody who stole $5, will be given less punishment than somebody who stole tens of thousands of dollars. One would have to also underscore the point that our moral values might have been shaped by our religious faith or affiliation. I don't want to go into any debate about whether society actually gave rise to moral values, or it is the religions, especially revealed religions, Christianity and Islam, are the ones that actually shape the moral fibers of our societies. I would not want to go into that debate, but I know that certain world religions also sanction morally wrong values with appropriate punishment. In fact, some of them were told, if the society cannot, punish accordingly, we'll go back to our Creator and we're going to earn appropriate punishment when we get to the world hereafter. I said that there are those values that are not moral, non-moral. They're not moral, yes, and these ones I define them as courtesies. If you meet colleagues, you meet elders in my society, it's demanded or required that if the younger ones meet the older ones, they have to greet them. And in some societies, they will even expect that the younger ones should prostrate to greet the elder ones. If you do it, also in my society, in some parts of my country, if you do it to an elder, or if you don't do it, nobody's going to query you, nobody's going to sanction you. Why didn't you greet the elder? But what I know is that non-moral values are those ones that only attract moral suasion. They'll just tell you, it's good for you, or it's better for you to greet the elders. It is also a good thing if you can show philanthropy. But nobody is going to force you. Go and donate to this cause. It's worthwhile. If you like, you go and donate to it. I have also cherished the American society by way of the generous philanthropy and charitable organizations of spirit that Americans have. I know that in our bids to enthrone democracy in Nigeria, foundations like Rockefeller, Ford, they have been very helpful to us. The point I'm making is that if they decided not to assist us, Nigerians have no right to challenge such foundations. Well, why did you do it to Bangladesh or to another country in the third world, and it has come to the turn of Nigeria, and you don't want to do? Such moral questions will not arise, because, as I said, these are gestures that are non-moral as such. You do them, people will just praise you. If you don't do them, people will just say, oh, I care less. Look at the other non-moral issues that I want to stress to make my case clearer is that there are certain passions some of us pursue. Somebody may like the works of art. They will go ahead, purchase them no matter how costly they are. As long as they are able to satisfy the needs of the family, relations, if they have them, they can spend as much millions of dollars as possible acquiring works of art. And nobody is going to challenge them. Is their, labor. I mean, the benefit of the labor, or their own labor. They want to see, preserve them maybe for future generations. I'm sure all these works of art we see around this hall cost of money. I'm saying that if individuals are the ones that purchase them, nobody is going to take them to task. Why have they done so? Now, this now leads me to the issue of education. Education is the word education is derived from the Latin word educare, which means, quote unquote, to bring up a child physically or mentally. It also means to rear. According to Socrates, education is a midwife. It is a process of helping the student to bring forth that which they are already pregnant with. As a social process, education involves both the learner and the learned. And the teacher, both the learner and the teacher. Well, the teacher is also the learned. At a higher level of learning, however, education can be a self-directed process. I'm thinking in terms of, graduate studies, or even beyond graduate studies. For those of us who are faculty, learning, our education is a continuous process. Today you go to the bookshop or come to the library and you find out that there is a new book you have not read. You pick it up off the shelf and read it. That is learning. You are also trying to educate yourself. But at the lower level, from the home actually, because education is a process that starts from the house. Learning has to be a social process. Somebody, a teacher, guiding the learner. Do this. This is the right thing to do. This is not the right thing to do. Avoid this. All those, non-formal types of education, take place not only in the household. They also take place in the larger society, among the various agencies of socialization, like the church, the mosque, the peer groups, the media, and other non-governmental organizations to which one would belong. Therefore, education can also be classified into two forms. We have the informal and the formal. The informal is the one I've just discussed, which does not require certification. That's informal education, and this is actually, the major means of education still operative in my society in Nigeria. A lot of people, the adult literacy rate is just about 52%. So a lot of people or a lot of homes up to now do not even have the means to take their children to school. So children learn quite a lot of what they will need in their adult life, in the house and within society. And in some certain sections of the country, especially where Islamic religion is predominant, people also go to the Islamic education to acquire knowledge of their religion and also some smattering of Arabic language. But the formal education system is the one that is institutionalized. You have schools. These schools are divided into grades. We have the pre-primary, the primary, the high school, which we call post-primary in Nigeria, or secondary school. Then the post-secondary school, which is the tertiary. The education process is, as I said, is purpose-directed process. Either it is given in the house, or is given by the society or government. It is aimed at achieving certain objectives. Among these, especially at the formal level, we have manpower training, skills acquisition, the development of good citizenry, and also the development of global citizenship. And in the case of Nigeria, the purpose of education is meant to enable the learner to acquire a long life learning skills. Objective is, you just don't stop learning after your certification. If you have PhD, remember as a citizen that you still have a lot to learn. Among the features of Nigeria's education system, we have the formal, which I've talked about, the formal one, and under the formal we have the pre-primary, kindergarten, adult literacy, liberal arts education, as well as technical education. And the levels of Nigerian education, we have the pre-primary, primary, post-primary, post-secondary, and tertiary. Nigerian education system subscribes to all the general objectives of education, as I've mentioned. However, the Nigerian policy of education, which was published in 2004, comes up with additional objective of Nigeria's education, and I quote, "Education has to be geared towards self-realization, better human relationship, individual and national efficiency, effective citizenship, national consciousness, national unity, as well as towards social, cultural, economic, political, scientific, and technological progress." Well, you can say this is an omnibus objective, but it shows where we are coming from, the kind of society we are. Nigeria is not as lucky as most countries, especially countries in the Western world. America, if you are here, you have no problem of any serious distinction, especially ethnic. Well, I know there are ethnic minorities in this country, but because of the overwhelming weight of the majority of the people here, it is very easy for everybody to get along. English is the medium of interaction. Everybody can speak it. Most people will speak it. So you have no, but in my country, as of the latest count, we have 374 languages. And English language, in fact, I have also added, we're talking of indigenous now, 374 indigenous languages. English language is the number 375, and it is not spoken by more than 40% or 50% of the population, which means that even for purposes of having efficient governance system, we have a long way to go. Because when you educate people, just as the objective of the Nigerian education system has stated, we have to educate people who are self-conscious, people who have acquired skills, and people who are able to also develop consciousness of citizenship. People who do not read and write, who cannot read and write in English, as far as I'm concerned, they are simply out of the orbit of governance in Nigeria. They cannot follow what is going on. They cannot be part of what is going on. They don't know what is even going on. And that may also explain why we have the problems of governance that we'll look at eventually. Education and value are intricately linked together. In fact, I call them Siamese twins. Because what values teach or engender from the objectives of education that I've mentioned are the same thing education engenders. So educationists have actually come with the coupling of the words, of the two words together, to have values education. Indeed, this was what I set out as a topic, values education, not value separate, but they are combined. And values education has been defined as referring to the teaching and learning what is right and important in life. This essentially emphasizes the training of the mind such that it is so learned and it forms the basis of what the individual graduates with and to the world of work. So, which means that if you are if you study under values education, you are supposed to imbibe all the good qualities of citizenship, patriotism, hard work, efficiency, consciousness of the feelings of the other people around you, and also your own role in contributing to the betterment of the society. In fact, some educationists have also gone to say that values education is the same thing as moral education, which is also defined as promoting, I'm quoting now, in the individual, a desire to gain the greatest possible knowledge and understanding of whatever kind of knowledge will help the recipient to make autonomous choices that are good and that are based on careful and informed thinking about the issues involved. Autonomous thinking, about what you do and what is going to be the effect of this on your neighbors. At this point, I want to stress that values education and the system of governance have also forged a linkage. And why do I say this? In my country, education is largely directed by the state. And indeed, we also have a federal system like the US. Even though at the local government level, we have the education department there handling primary schools essentially and pre-primary education system. But both at the state level and at the federal level, or particularly at the federal level, the federal government also comes down to see what is going on at that lower rung of the educational system. So, for me, therefore, education or values education and governance are intricately also linked together because of the role that we expect government to do, in making sure that the correct type of education is given to the citizenry. And I define governance as simply what government or authority does when taking executive decisions as well as in their implementation. For a state system, it is the aggregation of the activities of the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branches of government. So it's the aggregation, what all these branches do, that sum up to be governance in any society. Governance, however, takes place in the following realms: at home, in schools, public administration, private organization, especially companies, multinational corporations in particular, and the non-governmental organizations. Governance in Nigeria started with colonialism, and my opinion about colonialism is that it was imposed on the Nigerian people. It lacked transparency. It was authoritarian. But however, by sheer irony of phenomena, colonialism was also very efficient. I'm going to stress this point because it makes a qualitative difference between governance during colonialism and governance in contemporary Nigeria. The colonial government, initially they distanced themselves somehow from education. Indeed, Western education, as we call it in Nigeria, was brought to us by the missionaries. The missionaries came and they wanted to evangelize, convert people. Because one of the things that also has been stated is that colonialism was embarked upon by Europeans into Africa in particular, because the African continent was considered to be the dark continent. Even though history has shown that Africa is the home of Homo sapiens. There's no doubt about it. The first man emerged from Africa. But when Europeans came, in fact, with the resort to the use of the theory of social Darwinism, it was considered that the African people were in a struggle for survival with other human races. but the Europeans actually made it. And that was why they were better fitted to come and give light, civilization to the Africans. I will also not go into that debate. Yeah. But let me come back to the point I want to stress. I'm saying that since independence, governance has been what it is in Nigeria. And quickly, I want to show or say that the Nigerian governance system from independence, 1960, to date, that's about 50 years ago, is inefficient, is corrupt, is inhumane, is lacking in accountability and transparency, and it also lacks democracy. Additionally, the Nigerian governance system today is very expensive. In fact, recently there was an uproar in the public domain. The governor of our Reserve Bank came out and accused the members of the National Assembly, similar to the members of the Congress here, of actually taking not less than 1/4 of the annual budget in salaries, allowances, and accused them of being insensitive. And when he even compared the amount of income or salaries and awards they are getting in relation to what services they are rendering to Nigerian people, the conclusion the governor arrived at is that the Nigerian governance system is not only expensive, but is chronically inefficient. But we also have to make a distinction or try to see what is the basis of all these negative attributes of the governance system in Nigeria. I link them up to the emergence of the military. I don't want to go into the debate because at a point in the 60s, when the military, it was the proclivity of the military to take over governance in Africa, particularly American social science celebrated it because they were considered to be those who were well trained because they attended, military academies in the West. As if some of us who went to universities in the West didn't also get trained. I don't want to go, as I said, I don't want to go into that debate, but the fact of the matter is that the military has actually worsened the governance system in Nigeria. Apart from the fact that it is undemocratic, it came to topple government by force. They imposed themselves. In fact, Nigerians generally liking military dictatorship or military governance to colonial governance. They are similar because nobody invited them. They imposed themselves. In fact, since independence 50 years ago, the military has held or ruled this country for over 27 years. So only 23 years, the civilians have provided leadership or governance in Nigeria. And within 27 years, they established what one will now refer to as the ground norm. Although I'm extending, elastically, extending the meaning of the word ground norm, because it now has become the pattern. When you come into government, it is not the services you are going to render to the people that will matter, but how much could you line in your pocket is the issue. Indeed, when I was the president of my university, a lot of people said this. They told me this was your time to make it. I said, to make what? He said, to become rich. And I said, oh no, is that? I thought I was asked to come and be president of the university in order to develop the academic, program of the university. And I am happy with my achievement. I'm not here to sing my praises, but I know the qualitative difference I made, to my university for 5 years that I held the office of the president of the university. So this is the problem. Military came, introduced a new ground rule. If you go to government, it is not the service you render that matters, but at the end of the day, how much richer or how much benefit have you brought to your immediate members of your immediate family that people will use to charge you? That is the issue that needs to be corrected. And that is the issue that needs to be corrected because, as I said, the Nigerian government takes disproportionate, level of involvement in the issue of education or governance of education in Nigeria. It sets the rules. In fact, just this, as I was preparing the summary of this presentation, I put a phone call across to the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Universities Commission, who told me that just this morning, the government has again approved the setting up of 9 additional federal universities. And we're now bringing the total of the number of universities in Nigeria to 110. This includes also the federal universities, the state universities, and the private universities. Nigeria has the largest number of universities in Africa. Of course, we also have the largest number of population, 150 million people. And I must add that this number is inadequate clearly for our population. 110 universities, they are inadequate. In fact, that's why in the US in particular, I think we have not less than 10,000 Nigerian students studying here. This is just the US. My own 2 children are doing their postgraduate studies in the UK. So people go out. In fact, as far as the Asian countries, Malaysia, some people even go the extra mile, go to China to go and acquire education. Nigerians actually have done very well as far as education is concerned, because when the missionaries introduced education, they immediately saw the advantage of sending children to school. At that point, initially, those who were educated were the ones that would easily get jobs in the colonial bureaucracy. So communities actually mobilize themselves to set up institutions. They build schools, and government, in the colonial government, also when it started giving grants to assist these schools, this spurred some communities, especially in the southern part of the country, to embark on community schools. And that's why education is actually a big industry, in Nigeria. So the government has to do quite a lot of things. My argument is that although Marx has argued that it is the base of the society, of the economy, that is the economy of a society, that will determine the superstructure, is correct. But I'm thinking that at the level, at this present juncture where we are, we may have to also slightly modify this theory and say that because the state has also been the one dominating, every sphere of activities in the country, we have to ensure that, critical, social engineering or agenda for change will also have to take at the superstructural level. Governance has to be reformed. We have to make sure that people, first of all, who go into government know why, they should understand that there are procedures. These procedures, as of now that I'm talking, are broken down. Nobody, people do things very carelessly, because there is no system of accountability. Somebody who has stolen public money will come back tomorrow to come and look for executive posts, and the people will go and vote them because they are the ones who, as far as they're concerned, have brought material benefit to a few people. But they have also not clearly taken into consideration how much damage has been done to the larger society. So we have to reform governance in Nigeria and make sure that people who go into government are those who know the value, the reason why they go into government. We have to also ensure that, there is a citizen civic education to now express themselves and also ensure that, they actually vote the correct people into, the system of governance in the country. If we do not get this right, government can be, expanding its tentacles into the educational system. The educational system may still come up with the ideas, as I have quoted it, from the official government policy on education. We will still not go anywhere. The country can still continue to slide down, the plane of moral, moral turpitude. And that is actually very dangerous. Because, as I have said, this is a country that is well blessed with resources. I don't think there is any country that is as rich, resource-wise, in Africa as Nigeria. And globally too, Nigeria, in terms of resources, is richer than so many of the developed countries in Western Europe, including Japan, in terms of natural resources. But the linkage has been missed. We have not developed. We are still largely an agricultural country. In fact, we are a monocrop or mono-resource country. Only oil we depend upon, which fetches us about 96% of our foreign earnings, and is also responsible for about 80% of government annual budget. So the country is dangerously living on very narrow utilization of God-given resources. Nigeria is also one country in Africa that has actually, exported skills, manpower to other African countries. I can also say here with authority that in the US, Nigerian faculty members are also doing their bit to ensure that the American system of education, continues to be what it is, attractive to the global audience. But until we actually put in place people of remarkable character, people who have gone through our education system, who in addition, can now come and serve the society diligently, honestly, and make sure that the potentials that the country has can actually be attained. We cannot do this, if the trend that we have currently, is still the dominant one. And that is also very dangerous. As somebody has said, if there is a crisis, communal conflict of the proportion that we found in Sudan, in Nigeria, it is very likely that the whole of West Africa will be affected. That is the doomsday that we should try to avoid in that country. Thank you very much. Yes, I understand there are questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any questions for Dr. Jackson?
Yes.
So do you think there are parts of the curriculum that are particularly suited for teaching the values that you think are important, or is it something that you think sort of should be throughout the curriculum?
Yeah, the Nigerian curriculum has also placed emphasis on religious and moral instructions. Yes, there is hardly any student that goes through the post-primary education that will not do either offer Islamic religious knowledge, or offer Christian religious knowledge. And as I said in the paper, values or moral values are also taught by religions. So they are being taught. But the problem is that we have this, larger perception in the society that it is not the service you render to the community that matters, but what you can use or how you can instrumentalize the state to serve your own purpose. In fact, a lot of our leaders are fond of always quoting the statement made by President Kennedy. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. We are fond of quoting this as a moral precept, but unfortunately, I think, as somebody has said, don't follow don't follow what I do, but follow my moral precepts. That's what happens. Follow what I say, but not what I do. So people will say, good things about, how society can be made better, but they go back to do other things, and that is the problem. I think we have to really change, that behavior. Yes.
You mentioned at the beginning that Nigeria always ranks as one of the most corrupt countries.
Yeah.
And of course, all countries that are ranked the highest in terms of corruption are all poor countries.
Yeah.
And so I wonder whether, even kind of going one step further, even good values in a country that is very poor may lead to bad behavior. And let me give you the example of family values, right? Nigeria is very much known for its encompasses notion of family and having to take care of an extended family. But if you are a government employee and you're hardly paid, right? But you're expected to take care of an enlarged family, and the whole society is penetrated by corruption. So even if we have this very good value, family value, how can you uphold it without falling into the trap when the whole society kind of lives on this value?
Yeah, that is the point I was trying to make. I said when I was appointed the president of my university, people were asking me, this is your time to also make it. I know I also have responsibility. I mean, I extended, my old mother is there, over 90 years old. I have to take care of her. I have brothers who are not as lucky as myself, and so on and so forth. And then I also have friends, childhood friends who are very close to me. All these people will try to make, demands on me. But I also think that I had developed a strong moral character to ward off, such pressures. I think that is what we need. And after, I always emphasize this point to my audience in Nigeria. What we need in that country is self-discipline. If we don't have self-discipline, we are likely to fall victims of the behaviors of other people. Yes, if you go into government, what you do is to take them as much of the resources as possible, because nobody's going to ask you. One of the good things I like American society for is that you can't be a public figure and behave anyhow. You cannot go scot-free. It's going to, the system is going to catch up with you. I think that is where we need to get to. And I have said actually in the paper that we need to ensure that good laws are made. Indeed, we have good laws. But what is more important is that these laws must be implemented. I think this is the missing link that we have had in the country. So if the government doesn't pay you salary, is it enough for you to go now and go and steal public money? It will, of course, maybe alleviate or ameliorate your condition in the meantime. But the cycle of poverty continues. The problem of inability of government to pay will also continue. So we'll come back to square one. I am saying, therefore, that, let's put in place good laws. Let these good laws be implemented. And most importantly, let the Nigerian people wake up from their slumber and demand that there must be accountability by those in government. If we get this, I'm sure, we'll get it right. Yes?
What's the government's position on promoting education? I know earlier you mentioned that you think advancing education would promote more of a civic
education
feeling and might lead to more of a different outlook on the government. So would the government try to suppress that to resist change?
Yeah, let's even compare what is happening in Egypt now. The government is resisting change. Any person in government, has an advantage over those who are not in government. And the moment you want to displace them, they will become, they develop this thick skin to resist, any attempt to uproot them from their base of privileges. government is going to resist change. What I'm saying here may just be academic or theoretical. But I think also we have gotten to a stage. What Mubarak is facing in Egypt now is no more theoretical. It's practical politics. He has to address the issue. The people are saying they are not going away until he steps down. I think it was also gotten to that stage in Nigeria. In fact, I was reading a newspaper commentary in Nigeria some few days ago, and somebody was, making comparison between what is happening in Egypt, with what can happen in Nigeria, and warning the leaders that they should also begin to, look back and see to what extent they are responsive and responsible to the Nigerian people. So I believe that, we are getting to the stage where people are going to, also get mobilized as they have done in Egypt. But I also expect that the government will resist, because they really there are so many privileges as a leader in Nigeria. So many. I mean, the privileges are just uncountable. In fact, as I said, members of the National Assembly are considered to be even earning more than their counterparts in the U.S. And if you look at the GDP of Nigeria, it cannot compare with the GDP of the U.S. So why on earth will a few privileged people, just because they have been elected into office, they are the ones making laws that will, regulate the behaviors and activities of other people, but they are not guided by such laws? I think those are the contradictions that we need to fight. And the earlier we start it, the better for us. No more questions? Okay. Thank you.